Okay, the director of scouting and rankings for On3, Charles Power, stopping by DawgsHQ today. Charles, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. How about you, Wes?
Good. So the newsworthy, notable thing for us around here in Georgia country is Ryan Puglisi's change in the On3 recruiting rankings, and you have a little bit to do with that. So just curious, as soon as this commitment popped, saw a lot of fans wondering, why is Georgia going after this three-star guy? Why do we need to be excited about him? A lot of our
Yeah,
guys close to the situation said, just wait, wait until you see him play. He's better than that. What were your thoughts on his initial status and then the bump?
yeah. It really is a pretty interesting situation, and I guess a pretty sudden rise, or maybe over like the last 6 months for Ryan Puglisi. Just to kind of give some context, I think he's from really kind of in the middle of Massachusetts. Went to boarding school as a freshman, sophomore, definitely as a sophomore for sure. And then has since transferred to Avon Old Farms in Connecticut, where he's playing his junior season. So first off, it was a little difficult to maybe track down some of the stuff from his sophomore season, and I think really where he came on the radar nationally and for most teams was in the camp setting. He had a really strong Elite 11 workout in the spring, and really by then this rankings update for us was our first in 5 months. So a lot has happened since that time, and Ryan Puglisi is a pretty good example of just kind of that a lot has transpired since then. So had a really strong Elite 11 workout. That also showed up in college camps. I think he went camped at Georgia, camped at Alabama, got offers from both. I know he camped at Notre Dame, and really everything we heard from all of those college camp stops was nothing but praise. So I kind of probably prior to the season, I went back and watched a lot of his camp footage, watched the stuff from the Elite 11, and I think the first thing that jumps out with Puglisi is the arm strength is considerable. I mean, like there's moments in that Elite 11 workout where like it almost looks like there's smoke coming off the ball. Like he has a huge arm. So I think we kind of entered the season with understanding to say, okay, like he is a top arm talent, one of the top arm talents in the cycle that we've seen so far. Let's kind of get a better feel for him as a player. Because really, I mean, at the quarterback position, you can have all of those physical tools, but you still have to be able to play in space and read leverage, and you play against live defenses in 11 on 11 settings. So waited for a while. His season at Avon Old Farms didn't get underway. I think maybe until late September. So fortunately for us, that the way these rankings fell, we with this coming out in October, he had I say 3 or 4 games before we really started to kind of slot him into quarterbacks, give him time to put some video together and just play different levels of competition. Because they played a really good team the first week of the season that Chad Simmons was at, maybe I think the second game. So we get to see just enough of a sample size with him, and I think he's shown some encouraging playmaking ability
Well,
in
right
that
when you
setting.
said that his arm strength impressed you, I mean, the clip that was up at the moment was him smoking a pass, I think about 50
Yeah,
yards downfield, and
yeah,
didn't have a lot of air under it. I'm not an expert to the degree that you are, but I know that's good.
yeah. Oh, and he had one. I think it was last week where he rolled out to his left. It might be the one you're referring to. Maybe not, but he rolled out to his left and didn't have his feet set and flicked it, I'd say easy 55 yards in the air. So this is a guy who from what I've heard, can throw at 70. And has a baseball background, I believe, throws in the 90s on the mound. So just considerable arm talent. Yeah, I think we're still, it's the sample size on him is relatively, is smaller, just at the high school level. And it's different too. Playing prep schools in the Northeast, we don't, just doing this over the years, we don't see a ton of top quarterbacks from prep schools in the Northeast, or at least to this level, like a top 50 overall type of prospect. One comparison that I've kind of heard and I can see a little bit is the guy from a guy from Connecticut that SEC fans will be familiar with is Will Levis. Will Levis was a guy who was a top arm talent. You go back and watch Will Levis as a high school player, and you can see the arm talent that has kind of made him be, a guy who's talked about as a first rounder, maybe potential top 10, maybe even over number 1 overall pick. So I think Puglisi, if you're going to kind of draw a parallel with a guy who maybe had a similar career arc coming from that area, up there in Connecticut or in the New England area, he would be one that I would kind of draw for Lebs. They're a little different physically. Puglisi's probably a little shorter, maybe similarly filled out at the same stage, but yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with us is the arm talent for sure. I mean, we think his arm talent is in the top maybe 3 or 4 in the class right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the competition he's going up against or the comparative size of his teammates, but he looks bigger than 6'2", 195 in some of that film. He just looks sturdy, looks like a solid dude. Now, look, there wasn't a lot on this guy as recently as a few weeks ago. We started to hear rumors with Chad Simmons' RPM pick, and people were already starting to prick their ears up a little bit. Who is this kid? And I don't know if since then all of these offers have come in, but when you look at some other offers here, Bama, Ole Miss, other teams down the way, Notre Dame, like you mentioned, that's a good sign too. And I think that speaks volumes as well, regardless of what the star count looks like. My final question for you, Charles, I'm curious about this too. You told us everything about what went into this reevaluation from 3 stars to 4. What kind of development, what kind of growth do you guys typically have to see? And I don't even mean in general with Puglisi here, but to bump someone from that 4th star to a 5th by the time they're in a signing class with the college?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's something I think that is really important context to understand when we're doing these rankings. I think with quarterbacks, it is really paramount to me. I think when you look at the position and the development at the position, it's how you play in live 11-on-11 settings, along with what kind of once you drill down on the physical ability, how you can play and process and react in 11-on-11 settings is huge for us. And I think the continued development as a senior through the junior season and as a senior and getting those live reps, getting that banked experience against facing different defenses and situations and kind of understanding what you can get away with, what you might, testing your limits a little bit, building confidence as a player. That's huge for just, quarterback development. I think if you look at a lot of these top quarterbacks, they kind of become the style and type of player that they are as a high school senior. So with Puglisi and the rest of this class, just looking at just gaining more context on how they are as a player. That's not to say we won't add guys as quarterbacks as 5 stars between now and their senior year, but that really is the best indicator. Even if you look at someone like a Trevor Lawrence, for example, Trevor Lawrence was pegged as the top prospect in his cycle as a 9th grader, but he got better and better every year at Cartersville. And that's really a great indicator for us. So I think, continuing to stack these guys up in terms of their physical ability, but really the next step is how is he as a player, in live contact settings on Friday nights, or I guess in his case on Saturday afternoons. So
sure. Yeah, I think it's important too to highlight everything you said about the camp's importance with a guy like Puglisi, not to take anything away from his teammates or the guys he's competing against, but it's not SEC caliber. Obviously, it's not some of the teams that, like you mentioned, Trevor Lawrence was going up against. So that's not as evident, but it does look like when you see him throw the football, I mean, you can't help but be impressed at that individual box that he's checking right there. He's Ryan Puglisi. Say that again. I'll need to practice that one. 4-star on 3, 4-star on 3 consensus. And this has been Charles Power. He's a 5-star at On3 as well. Appreciate it, Charles.
Yeah, thanks.